So apparently the ATF had a meeting with Joe Biden and his transition team, and the discussion revolved around how the ATF and Joe Biden's team now want to go after 80% lowers as well as pistol braces. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think that the ATF should be abolished, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. I also want to give a shout out to some of my sponsors, the first being Customs. Customs is an amazing company. They do so much more than just provide California compliant parts to patriots like me and you in California, but they also support cases and lawsuits which are geared at actually abolishing those laws that actually make their parts relevant in the state of California. So Thorson's is an amazing company, and if you're interested, I'll go ahead and put a link to them down in the details section. Also want to give a shout out to Got Your Six. For just $2.99 a month, you get access to a lot of amazing things on their app. This includes things like the Initiate Freedom button, so if your Second Amendment rights are violated through something like a red flag law, you can click this button and a notification goes out to those members of your group. So if you're interested in taking a look at their app, I'll go ahead and put a link to them as well in the details section. So it's very evident now with the news media saying that Joe Biden won the election, that he's the president-elect. His administration or potential administration is now ramping up actions to actually go after our Second Amendment rights. And actually recently we got notification through Firearms Policy Coalition, and I'll put a link to all of this that I'm talking about down the details section if you want to go take a look at it for yourself. But the notification was that Joe Biden's transition team actually had a meeting with the prominent directors in the ATF, and the discussion revolved around how these ATF individuals, these high up directors, actually want to go after 80% lowers as well as pistol braces. Now this isn't shocking, mainly because if you've been keeping your eye on this issue, especially leading up to the election, the ATF was really signaling that they were actually going to do these types of things. And that's why a lot of us were very worried about the election and actually were supporting Trump, wanted Trump to actually be in office, because we knew what Joe Biden was saying as well as what the ATF was indicating. It was very clear that if Joe Biden took position, actually gave more funding to the ATF as well, the ATF was going to do these types of things. And so I'll actually read some of the information that we've got. So in November 10th, 2020, during an ATF conference call, Acting Director Regina Lombardo told those in attendance that the anti-gun Biden transition team has reached out to the ATF to get the agency's top priorities. And the report is that what she has indicated the ATF's top priorities to be in that conference call was both going after pistol braces as well as 80% lowers, because in their eyes, they believe that those fall outside of Second Amendment protection, that they should be regulated under the NFA, that they should be subject to regulatory schemes by the ATF, that the ATF has wanted to go after them prior, but essentially didn't have funding because the Trump administration has kept their funding very low. There's also been some discussion in various reports that ATFs had to cut people because of the low funding, but now it appears that the ATF is feeling emboldened by Biden, that they're going to get more funding and actually go do things like they've been wanting to do, like going after pistol braces as well as 80% lowers. And one thing that I find interesting is, if you've been watching this channel, you've seen that I've been covering some various things that the ATF has been doing recently, especially leading up to the election, mainly being that they went after Q and the honey badger, saying that the Q honey badger had to be subject to the NFA, tax stamp, stuff like that. When I put out that video, there was a ton of comments that were on that video saying, oh, the ATF isn't going after pistol braces. They're just going after specifically the Q honey badger. They would never go after pistol braces. But in my opinion, I thought the ATF was very much signaling what they were potentially going to be doing in regards to pistol braces. Then soon after that, we had some letters that got sent out from prominent law firms that deal with manufacturers and companies within the firearms industry. And the letter revolved around how the ATF had indicated to these manufacturers, to these prominent firearms companies, there was the potential that they would be redefining the way that they determined things to be pistols, handguns, things like that. And as well, on that video, a lot of people said, well, we don't know that yet. The ATF hasn't directly indicated that yet. We can't gather that just from a letter. Then I put out another video how the state of California was suing the ATF specifically about their definition of 80% lowers, saying that the ATF needed to redefine 80% lowers to be other things and actually consider them to be firearms. And on that video as well, people said, oh, it'll never happen, it'll never happen. But now what we've seen after the election, and now that people are signaling that maybe Joe Biden will in fact be the president, the ATF is very much emboldened, and it appears like they are going to do all those things that they have been signaling prior, that we've been talking about, that we've been warning about, that people have been denying is potentially going to happen. And it seems like it's very clear now that the ATF, once they get funding from Joe Biden, their main objectives is that they will be going after 80% lowers as well as pistol braces during the Biden administration. Now, this ties into something else that's going on right now, and it has to do with FBC getting involved with another case that's pending right now, and that is the City of Syracuse versus the BTFE. Essentially, the City of Syracuse, along with other plaintiffs, are actually suing the ATF based on their definition of what they define to be 80% lowers. According to the plaintiffs here, the City of Syracuse, Everytown for Gun Safety, they believe that the ATF should modify their definition to make 80% fall under the definition of a firearm and therefore be subject to various regulatory schemes under federal law, state laws, stuff like that. Now, FBC is getting involved and they have filed a motion for intervention on the specific case, primarily because, like I mentioned, the defendant is the ATF. And like you just heard what I was talking about, the ATF has shown through their own actions, through their own words, that they are not interested in protecting things like 80% lowers. They are not interested in protecting things like pistol braces. If the ATF had their way and these high up directors of the ATF had their way, they would indeed redefine 80% lowers to fall under various regulatory schemes. So Firearms Policy Coalition is getting involved, and they filed that motion of intervention because they do not believe that the ATF will properly defend our Second Amendment rights, because it's very clear and evident now that the ATF is biased against these types of protections, against these types of items. And so I highly recommend you guys donate to organizations like FBC if you would like to support what's going on in those organizations that are defending our Second Amendment rights. But as of right now, with Joe Biden saying that he's going to be the president, with the ATF believing that he's going to be the president, it seems like we're going to be in for a very rough at least 4 years as far as trying to fight and protect our Second Amendment rights. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and you like to support the channel, one of the best ways you can do that is like, comment, subscribe, and make sure you hit the notification bell, because that helps the channel analytics, helps us spread the word about the Second Amendment, also helps spread the word about things like this that are going on in the US in trying to violate our Second Amendment rights. So as always, thanks you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.